Hi guys, and welcome back. What a topic we're getting into today, that's all I can say. We are going to be talking about the murders of Richard Ramirez. This is one of those cases or individuals that fascinates the absolute crap out of me because it is just so dark, the things that we're going to be talking about today. Richard Ramirez is one of the most known American serial killers who murdered, as far as we know, 14 people and attempted to murder 5 others, as well as torturing dozens of people in California before being caught in 1985. Early life. Born Ricardo Levia Munoz Ramirez on the 29th of February 1960 in El Paso, Texas, Richard was the 5th child of Mexican immigrants Mercedes and Julian Ramirez. Also known as Ricky, Ramirez sustained multiple head injuries as a young boy, and after he was knocked unconscious by a swing at age 5, he began experiencing epileptic fits. As he grew into his teens, Ramirez hung out with his older cousin Miguel, who had recently returned from the Vietnam War. They smoked a bit of weed together, and Miguel would not only tell Ramirez about the torture and mutilation he had inflicted on several Vietnamese women, but he would also show him the photos. Just imagine being that young and seeing photos of people being mutilated. That is just... let's just say it's not setting him up for the best outcome here. Ramirez then witnessed Miguel kill his wife, and he was found not guilty of murder by reason of insanity and was released 4 years later. Again, not being set the best example in the world. His later teens and early adulthood illustrate a steady decline in that he dropped out of school in the 9th grade and was first arrested in 1977 for marijuana possession. He then moved to California, forming a cocaine addiction, so steadily making his way up the drug ranks there. This is where he started stealing, twice for auto theft in 1981 and 84, and arguably most unsettlingly gained an interest in Satanism. It was also at this time that Ramirez started to neglect his dental hygiene, with his teeth suffering as a result. The murder spree. The first murder Ramirez committed was on the 28th of June 1984. The victim, 79-year-old Jenny Vincow, was sexually assaulted and stabbed repeatedly in the head, neck and chest while asleep in her bed, and her throat was slashed so deeply that she was nearly decapitated. Her house was also burgled. This would begin a spree of brutal murders, rapes and robberies by Ramirez after he had his first taste of it. Almost 9 months later, Ramirez struck again. On the 17th of March 1985, he attacked Maria Hernandez, who actually managed to escape, but Ramirez then killed her roommate, Dale Okazaki, who was 34 years old. Clearly not being satisfied with this, probably because one of them got away, he shot and killed 30-year-old Tsai Lian Yu the same evening. This would begin the media frenzy surrounding these murders, naming the killer the Valley Intruder by the press. This second murder also made evident a pattern of Ramirez breaking into homes, committing vicious murders and frequently burglarizing his victims, either before or after killing them, which was to support his drug addiction and to pay his rent, because clearly having a 9-to-5 job was so last year. Only 10 days later, so we're seeing that cool down period drop significantly, on the 27th of March, Ramirez killed 64-year-old Vincent Zazara and 44-year-old wife Maxine, using an attack style that would become a pattern for the killer. The husband was shot first, and then after the wife tried to shoot Ramirez with an unloaded gun, Ramirez brutally assaulted and stabbed Maxine to death. He then proceeded to cut an inverted cross into her chest and gouge out her eyes, of which he took in a jewellery box and kept at his apartment until his arrest. After a full-scale police operation failed to make an arrest, Ramirez repeated this attack pattern on retirees William and Lillian Doy on the 14th of May 1985. He shot William in the face and then beat him into unconsciousness, and William would later die in hospital. Ramirez also burgled the house and raped Lillian. Then we just have an endless pursuit of vicious murders and burglaries, and I just thought it would be right to mention every single victim here. On the 29th of May, Ramirez entered the home of 83-year-old Mabel Bell and her 81-year-old disabled sister Florence Lang. He found a hammer in the kitchen and attacked Lang in her bedroom, then Bell. He also used an electrical cord to shock Bell. After raping Lang, he used Bell's lipstick to draw a symbol on her thigh and on the walls. 2 days later, both women were found alive but in critical condition, but they both died in hospital a few months later. The very next day, Ramirez broke into the home of 42-year-old Carol Kyle. He held a gun on her and handcuffed her and her 11-year-old son before searching the house for valuables. He let Carl go to show him where the family's valuable items were and then raped her multiple times. He also told her to not look at him and threatened to cut her eyes out. He then handcuffed them both again and left. On the 2nd of July, Ramirez killed 75-year-old Mary Louise Cannon. As she slept, he hit her with a lamp until she was unconscious and then killed her with a knife from the kitchen. After she was dead, he continued to stab her body. 3 nights later, Ramirez bludgeoned 16-year-old 3 nights later, Ramirez bludgeoned 16-year-old Whitney Bennett with a tire iron as she slept. He then tried to strangle her with a telephone cord, but saw electrical sparks come out of the cord. When Bennett began to breathe again, Ramirez fled the house, thinking that Jesus had intervened to save her life. Bennett did survive, but required 478 stitches to close the lacerations on her scalp. On the 7th of July, Ramirez beat 60-year-old Joyce Lucille Nelson to death by stomping on her face repeatedly. And this is one of the murders that I cannot describe the hatred I have for someone that just stamps on someone's face to death. What kind of person are you that would make you want to do that to someone? I don't understand. Stabbing's one thing, shooting's another, but physically stamping on someone's skull to death. An important point here, a shoe print from an Avia sneaker, I think that's how you pronounce it, was left imprinted on her face, so remember that for later. He then chose the home of Sophie Dickman, aged 63. Ramirez assaulted and handcuffed Dickman at gunpoint, attempted to rape her and stole her jewellery. When she swore to him that he'd taken everything of value, he told her to swear on Satan. On the 20th of July, Ramirez hacked 66-year-old Leila Needing and her husband Maxon to death with a machete. He then shot them and further mutilated the bodies with the machete before robbing the house. After this, he broke into the home of the Covenanth family. He shot 32-year-old Cheorong in the head and repeatedly raped and beat 32-year-old Somkid. He bound an 8-year-old boy and then dragged Somkid around the house to reveal any valuable items. During his assault, he demanded that she swear to Satan that she was not hiding any money from him. On the 6th of August, Ramirez shot 30-year-old Chris Peterson and Virginia Peterson, aged 27, but Chris fought back and avoided being shot 2 more times before Ramirez escaped, like a coward. The couple survived their injuries, thank the Lord. 2 nights later, so I'm guessing Ramirez was spooked off a bit from murdering the very next night, Ramirez killed 31-year-old Elias Aberwath. He then handcuffed and beat Elias's wife Sakina, aged 27, while forcing her to reveal the locations of the jewellery. He brutally raped her and demanded that she swear on Satan that she wouldn't scream. When the couple's 3-year-old son entered the bedroom, Ramirez tied the child up and then continued to rape Sakina. After he left, Sakina untied her son and sent him to the neighbours for help. Ramirez, who had been closely following the news coverage of his crimes, as a lot of serial killers do, left Los Angeles and headed to San Francisco. This again is an example of him being a coward, because clearly he couldn't deal with the amount of press that was going on in LA and thought, oh, I'll try murdering somewhere else. It's ironic though, isn't it, that they love the press and they love that fame attached to their killings, but once it gets a little bit too hairy for them, they're out there. Now in San Francisco, on the 18th of August, Ramirez shot and killed 66-year-old Peter Pan and then beat and sexually assaulted 62-year-old Barbara Pan before shooting her in the head and leaving her for dead. Ramirez used lipstick to scrawl a pentagram and the phrase "Jack the Knife" on the bedroom wall. He again left a shoe print at the scene that detectives discovered and matched to a specific pair of Avia shoes that were not common at the time. Lead detectives Frank Salerno and Gil Carrillo contacted the manufacturer of the shoes and were able to retrieve the soles. Upon the discovery of the make and the distribution across the US, only 6 of them existed in the men's size 11.5. 5 of them were shipped to Arizona and only 1 pair was shipped to a store in Los Angeles. It was therefore evident that this particular pair of shoes belonged to the murderer. When it was discovered that the shoe print evidence from the LA crime scenes matched the Pan crime scene, San Francisco's mayor Dianne Feinstein leaked the information in a televised press conference. I mean, that's rule number 1. You don't leak the information that is going to affect the investigation. This infuriated detectives as they knew the killer would be watching the news coverage, and this would prompt him to destroy the evidence. Obviously. Ramirez, who had indeed been watching the press conference, which is no shocker, dropped his sneakers over the side of the Golden Gate Bridge that very night. He remained in San Francisco for a few more days before heading back to Los Angeles. During this time, his unmistakable MO, complete with satanic symbolism, meant that the Valley Intruder label was no longer applicable. The press quickly coined a new name, the Night Stalker, as most of his assaults took place at night in his victims' homes. Honestly, it's like a bloody promotion. On the 24th of August, now back in LA, Ramirez arrived at the home of 45-year-old James Romero Jr. Romero's son, 13-year-old James Romero III, happened to be awake. While his family was asleep, James went outside of his house to retrieve a pillow inside a truck, which was locked. When he was outside, he heard a rustling noise. Assuming it was an animal, James went to investigate, but did not notice anything out of the ordinary. James then went into his garage to begin working on his mini bike before hearing Ramirez's footsteps outside the house. Thinking there was a prowler, James, after observing Ramirez through his bedroom window, went to wake his parents, and Ramirez fled the scene. James raced outside and noticed the colour, make and style of the car, as well as a partial license plate number. Good work. Come on, that is a detective in the making. Romero contacted the police with this information, believing his son had chased away a thief.
13-year-old boy in Mission Viejo, James Romero, changed the course of this story.
There's no question that James provided us with the most important piece of information out of over 2,000 phone calls.
With this attack aborted, Ramirez broke into the home of 30-year-old Bill Carnes and his fiancée, 29-year-old Inez Erickson. Ramirez shot Carnes 3 times in the head before identifying himself as the Night Stalker to Erickson. He forced her to swear she loved Satan as he beat her and bound her. After stealing what he could find, Ramirez dragged Erickson to another room before raping her. Then he demanded cash and jewellery and made her swear on Satan that there was no more. Before leaving the home, he told Erickson, "Tell them the Night Stalker was here." Erickson untied herself and went to a neighbour's house for help. Surgeons removed 2 of the 3 bullets from Khan's head, and he survived his injuries. The arrest. Ramirez's actions on his final night of terror in LA on the 24th of August 1985 soon led to his capture. First, he was spotted outside a Mission Vallejo home where he unwittingly left a footprint before the witness took note of his car and license plate. Later, after Ramirez raped another woman at her home and shot her fiancé, the victim provided a detailed description of her assailant who had forced her to swear her love for Satan. Ramirez's abandoned car was found a few days later, complete with enough of a fingerprint from multiple murder scenes to make a match. And his existing criminal record enabled the police to finally put a name to the Night Stalker. National TV and print media coverage featuring his prison photo along with a series of clues from witnesses and survivors led to Ramirez's capture on the 31st of August after he was badly beaten by East Los Angeles residents while attempting 2 carjackings. Ramirez's teeth were the most notable aspect of his poor hygiene and even contributed to his capture and conviction. According to forensic dentists, 9 of his teeth were decayed and several others were missing. This was due to a combination of a poor diet and a cocaine addiction. At least 2 survivors, including Lillian Doy, told police Ramirez had bad teeth following their encounters. During the trial, Ramirez's father claimed his son was in El Paso, Texas in May 1985 when he had allegedly raped 3 women and murdered 1. However, records from a Los Angeles dentist office showed that Ramirez had appeared for an appointment on the 30th of May. Trial and conviction. Jury selection for Ramirez's trial began on the 22nd of July 1988. At his first court appearance, he raised a hand with a pentagram drawn on it and yelled, "Hail Satan." On the 3rd of August 1988, it was reported that some jail employees overheard Ramirez planning to shoot the prosecutor with a gun, which he intended to have smuggled into the courtroom. A metal detector was quickly installed outside of the courtroom and intensive searches were conducted on people entering. Interestingly, on the 14th of August, the trial was interrupted because one of the jurors, Phyllis Singletary, did not arrive at the courtroom. Later that day, she was found shot to death in her apartment. The jury was terrified, wondering if Ramirez had somehow directed this event from inside his prison cell and whether or not he could reach other jurors. However, it was ultimately determined that Ramirez was not responsible for her death, as she was shot and killed by her boyfriend, who later committed suicide with the same weapon in a hotel. This case is just dark in so many ways. It's just the alternate juror who replaced Singletary was too frightened to return to her home, which I can completely understand. I would not want to be on this trial. I would just, no. And finally, on the 20th of September 1989, Ramirez was convicted of all 43 charges. 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries.
To be held by him pending the final determination of your appeal in this matter, which is automatic. Said sentence to be executed upon the final determination of said appeal. You are to be held by him during said period of time until further order of this court. It is so ordered, and this is signed and done in open court this 7th day of November, 1989. I'm now signing the document.
He was sentenced to death in California's gas chamber, which he responded with, "Big deal, death always went with the territory, see you in Disneyland." The trial cost $1.8 million, which made it the most expensive murder trial in the history of California until the O.J. Simpson case in 1994. And believe you me, we will be getting into that at some point. Fans. During the trial, Ramirez had fans who were writing him letters and paying him visits. After seeing his mugshot on TV, Doreen Leoy became interested in Ramirez. In 1985, Leoy wrote Ramirez nearly 75 letters. In 1988, Ramirez proposed to Leoy, and in October 1996, they were married in California's San Quentin State Prison. So my qualm with this would be, if she believed he was innocent of all of these crimes, all of these assaults, all of these murders, everything, why would you want to be with someone who so clearly worships Satan and is so obvious about it? Why would you want to be with someone like that unless she's hiding something about herself there? For many years before Ramirez's death, Leoy stated that she would commit suicide when Ramirez was executed. However, she did become more unsure of her faith in Ramirez when new evidence came to light in 2009. It was reported that the DNA evidence linked Ramirez to the 1984 slaying of a 9-year-old girl. So now she starts to suspect him as a murderer, even though there was so much evidence and DNA evidence in the other murders. Right, by the time of his death in 2013, Ramirez and Leoy were in the middle of a divorce. Ramirez was diagnosed with cancer while on death row, which he then died of on the 7th of June 2013. I've watched documentaries and videos on the Richard Ramirez case and the murders, but creating this video really opened my eyes on the horrific, satanic nature of these crimes and honestly the abundance of them. There were so many, I just can't wrap my head around it, and that's obviously why he's one of the most notorious serial killers of all time. He was a piece of shit who must have believed that he was working for Satan, I guess. I mean, his childhood, while not a justification of his actions at all, definitely did not start his life in a very good way, and there definitely should have been more care placed on Ramirez as he was growing up. It's just so sad to see it result in something like this, and saying that, I don't have any sympathy for him at all. He was so aware of his actions and he tried to justify it with Satanism. I just don't understand how someone's brain works like that. While he died of cancer, I do believe he should have been tortured for what he did, but that's obviously not legal. If you found this video interesting, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more like this. I definitely will be doing more cases like this, as well as conspiracies and mysteries. But yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in my next one.